All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Monday, July 2nd, Tufton Borough Board of Selectmen. We will resume the Selectmen's meeting following two non-public sessions that we had earlier. Let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start first with a public hearing on acceptance of FEMA reimbursement funds per RSA 31:95-B, parent 3A. The winter storm on Election Day in March of 2017, right, 16 months ago, resulted in additional expense to the town that was eligible for and received reimbursement from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That reimbursement came, actually came to the town on the 8th of June of this year in the amount of $11,634.37. Per RSA 31:95-B, parent 3A, this hearing is being held to accept this money as additional monies to the town of Tufton Borough for expense as the governing body may seem fit. I'll open the public hearing. Any questions or comments from the public regarding the acceptance of this almost $12,000 from the federal government?
That was expenses, this is Steve Hunter, that was expenses from the storm cleanup.
That's correct.
And was that just town roads or was that private roads and state roads?
That
as possible as town roads.
yeah,
The town and
Yeah.
state,
yeah.
nothing private.
These were additional expenses that were incurred by the town as a result of cleaning up the storm. And we found in going through the grant application process that additional effort that was made, for instance, by fire and rescue, because it didn't result in expenditure of monies beyond the budget in fire and rescue. Am I right, Chief? We're not eligible. So this is primarily, if not exclusively, money that was spent by the road agent and his crews and contractors in doing the cleanup.
There was a small amount of vehicle for like the emergency generator running for 24 hours at the school. Police department, a small amount of overtime, and emergency vehicles reimbursement as far as fuel and stuff like that, but otherwise nothing else was hired.
So my question is, if I can finish,
I'm sorry.
so we're gonna accept federal money on the town roads work,
Yes.
and then I bought a dump truck that's out there, and I paid $14,000 in federal excise tax, and you're gonna tell me I can't use those town roads for a couple months every year? When we accept federal money? Just a big question that you need to ponder.
You're talking about when the roads are posted.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with whether you pay federal excise tax or not. It has everything to do with the condition of the roads.
But you're accepting federal money. So that opens that up to everybody. I believe. That's my opinion.
But there is no restriction with respect to accepting that money about the closure of roads or the reduction of the weight limit on the roads during the spring thaw. And you think there should be?
Well, if you're accepting federal money, then I think that opens the door for everybody.
I think maybe a more important conversation might be had with the state. Because if you're not able to drive your truck for 2 months, then you should have a reduction in your registration fee. I would
Well, we
think.
do that, it should be the town also.
Sure, but that's all in statute, so there's really not much we can do about it at the town level without.
I think there is, because I think you can limit the posting, not do as much posting at the town level.
Right, but that's, I think, an argument for another day.
Okay.
And I'd certainly agree with you to a point, and it should be an issue that we look at from time to time, because it does affect people's ability to make money.
Thank you.
Any other public input? Okay, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll entertain a motion to accept these funds.
I'll move to accept the reimbursement from FEMA for the contract work.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we have a public hearing on the proposed docking and parking ordinance. Okay, I'll declare the public hearing open on the docking and parking ordinance. Chief, do you want to speak to it before we get started?
Sure. Obviously, we had some older ordinances, plus adopted either through town meeting or through the Board of Selectmen. We've tried to update those to, for example, in one case, it was talked about stickers being on the bumper, well, we've been issuing hang tags, so it's kind of out of date there. There was no time limits, so it made it kind of tough to, it said overnight rather than defining what overnight was. We've also, the only real expansion is it covers other town properties. We try to keep within the intent and what was done in the past, so try to be all encompassing for the docks and the parking lots, and try to and stay within what was there before, or how it was being addressed before, but clarify some of the language and make it a little clearer so it can be easier to enforce, easier to follow, so you know what time limits and that apply.
Okay, do we have any public input? Questions or concerns? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dennis Bobbin, 237 Governor West Highway. I had a question, I guess, with Chief. It mentioned about getting a parking permit for the town lot at the police station on weekends. Is someone at the police station, or is it just the officer on duty?
The officer on duty would have to go that way.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking, people, as you know, people are
Yeah.
parking and your officers have been ticketing, and someone asked me, well, where can I park my car? I said, well, up to the town lot, but you need a parking tag.
Right.
So they would have to call the officer on duty to get a parking tag.
Yep.
Thank you.
The only issue that's come up since this has been questions about parking at Mirror Lake at that ramp there. I know we put in here, actually 2 questions. That was one question that came up. You know, it's worded in here, no parking there, but I guess I throw that out there as a discussion that somebody threw out to me. The other was that the parking lot at 19 Mile Bay with the permits, in the past, people from town could get the permits too. And apparently, somebody tried to get one and they're not an island resident, so I didn't know what the policy should be on that. I guess I run that by you, what your thoughts on the policy on that.
So local residents don't qualify for a permit?
That's what somebody said, they couldn't get a permit. They said they tried to get one and they couldn't get one.
So if I own a boat and live on Ledge Hill Road, and I want to launch my boat in 19 Mile Bay, there's no place for me to put my car and trailer.
Well, you only need it for overnight anyways.
So the permits are only for overnight.
Only for overnight, yes.
Well, if I look at what we have, this is on page 3, under I, parking permits are available at the town office and will be issued to landowners and their guests.
Okay. Well, that's-
So I don't see any restriction to only island landowners.
I'll try and figure out who that was and tell them they are eligible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, unless I'm missing something.
So only permitted or permit parking at the 19 Mile Brook Bay parking area.
Overnight.
Overnight.
During the day,
During the day, if you want to launch for the day,
no permit required.
no permit required.
So why was it yesterday there were so many people parked on the highway?
Good
It's
question.
convenient.
It's convenient.
Or they can't back their trailer up?
Right.
They backed it into the road.
Well, it's, if the parking lot's full, it's hard to get a
It
trailer.
wasn't
now.
full, that was.
I understand that.
I just was trying to figure out.
And-
Well,
If it's
But
short.
I have
it's not
seen
long a walk.
times where the shoulder's full and there are spots in the lot, but say earlier in the day, maybe the lot was full and people have left. And as I recall, because the road is wider and the shoulder is wider there, parking along that particular stretch really with trailers doesn't create any
I
sort
haven't
of.
had any complaints or issues with it, so I
Well,
wasn't gonna.
they were well off the pavement.
So are these new signs along the road all part of this?
No, the new signs are on this is separate from this.
So why are the new signs up and down the whole road there?
Well, that area already was no parking through there. There already was, but
And why is that?
it's been that way since,
North of the pier?
you talking
I think
north of
towards
Union
Melbourne.
Wharf, or where are you talking?
All the way down through there's signs now.
Right.
It went up last
And
week.
that
They
is.
went up
very-
last week, a bunch of signs went up last week.
No, they've been up there for a while.
Well, okay, there's a bunch of signs down there that people used to park off the pavement, and now I guess they're not allowed to.
You're talking, where are you talking, to the north of Union Wharf Road?
Yes.
Yep, there's some people north of the Wharf Road that,
That has always been that way. From what I know, it was BA before Andy. I mean, in fact, they called it, according to the listing they had at the State Department of Transportation, it's been that way. They said that was Bennett Road, called at one point, anyway. And it's 350 feet north. And part of the problem is, like, when some people park trucks there, when you pull out of Union Wharf, it impedes your view to the north of southbound traffic coming out. So that's always existed. There's just been one sign that said no parking, but didn't give you a directional arrow. So people would park in between, and technically they were breaking the law, but I felt the signage wasn't clear enough. Now there's a sign with an arrow indicating where the end of the zone is. That was supposed to be the end of the zone. And it always was, from what I can gather, because like I said, that was an old, they pulled out the regulations from back when the road went along the side of the beach, where the beach is now. Because it talked about how, that whole length not having parking through there, and I'm like, that wasn't necessary to go as far as it had been at that time. And they reworded it, and I kept that same distance as it had been since, like I said, back since whenever. But the problem was the signage wasn't very good. There was one sign up, like what, 3-4 houses up that said no parking.
In front of my house.
In front of your house, but nothing in between, and it didn't have an arrow indicating which way the no parking zone was. So that zone right there is the same as it's been.
just the sign.
Just better.
The sign is better delineating what was always prohibited, I guess.
So the people that own that property can't park in front of their property.
Not along the road, no, not in the right way, right on the right way.
Because I don't see a lot of difference between that and this piece, between the town parking lot here and Onion Wharf Road right down below it.
It's near an intersection where two
Near an
lots
intersection
away.
near a public parking, and we have people that the town gardens parking out there all the time. I don't see a big difference there. And why you're isolating, we spent a fortune down there on the bypass, Borough bypass, and a fortune on the beach down there, and now we're limiting people's ability to use it. That was kind of like the same thing that happened at Union Wharf a number of years ago. We spent $40,000 on it, and shortly thereafter, we put regulations on there that limits the use of it to an hour or two and no overnight and everything else. It's kind of like you build something, you spend a lot of money and you build something, and then you tell people you can't use it. And then you continue on, and why does the Fish and Game have permission to use our wharf? Go down and use Wolfboro's wharf. Go to Marlboro and use their wharf. Why do they have to use Tuftonborough's wharf? You know, the nice wharf that we have is tied up by the fire department and the fish and game and stuff.
I think the parking is actually expanded, Steve, if we want to be honest.
Well, it may have, but we're
Because when you
still
did the
limiting people
Right.
after we've spent a fortune
There's
down
gonna
that
be a
area.
certain amount of limitation, but having spent the money on the bypass, there aren't any no parking signs down that way. Past south of the bridge,
Nothing south of the bridge.
That's right.
so you've actually expanded that where
On
there
the
was no
far side of the
parking.
road, there's no signs there, across from the beach,
Nope,
No, that,
it ends at the bridge.
so they can, so
At the
they're allowed to
guardrail.
park trailers there.
Yeah,
They had, when they originally put the signs up, and this is why I say these aren't new signs, because they've been up there for a while. They put the signs to the south
beach.
of the beach and distance up towards, past your house. And I said, no, we just meant to the crosswalk, because there's still people that park right there. As far as to the right of Union, to the north of Union Wharf, it was a matter of people not being able to see when they come out of Union Wharf. It's clear, last summer we had, all of a sudden last summer there were some trucks parked there and they were obstructing the view. And the problem is if I say, oh, your car, I can't say, well, small cars park, but, oh, your truck is no good. Well, your truck's okay because you don't have a cap on it, or your mid-sized truck. I mean, it's tougher to, unless it's easier to just make sure nobody gets the idea, because when that guy parks off to the side, I get it, it's land, but then the next person sees that and they're gonna park when he's not there and they may have a big van there. So and it does create an obstruction of view, and that's a fairly heavy traveled section of road in the summertime.
I do have, the chief mentioned obstruction of view, I do have a concern, coming off of Union Walk, I'm sure your firefighters probably have noticed it. The Sims property has two big bushes right at the junction of its fence. So if you're coming out of the public launch, you do not see the cars headed south. It's only a matter of time before a car pulls out of the public launch, Union Walk roadway, not the Union Walk roadway, the
Yeah, the
road
road
itself
itself,
access. And those trees are blocking the views headed.
They did trim them up when we mentioned it in the past.
Yeah, they're not trimmed up now.
Well, they grow. Trees grow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll mention it to them again about that. It's kind of tough though, because it's on private property and it's their trees, but.
Well, I guess my question is, if that's private property, then why can you prohibit parking there?
Not the road,
Well,
it's a right of way.
Same difference.
it's the same difference, it's, the trees are within 2 feet of the pavement. They're not on the inside of his fence, they're on the outside of the fence, bushes.
I'd have to, I know you're talking about ones that were grown over.
No, these are ones on the outside of the fence, right at the corner.
I have to look at it.
Thank you.
I guess as far as use of the wharf is concerned, I'm unaware of what arrangements were made with Fish and Game. But I do know that without parking regulations, it's completely abused. I mean, I've tried to get down there and launch boat, and in the past, there's been the same car there for weeks. You know, I think the same thing would happen on the wharf itself. We have a lottery for who could use it. I mean, I don't know how you manage it without making it just, you know, a few hours to come in and get your groceries or whatever it is you need to do.
Well, I think that's what it is now.
Yeah.
There's so many hours in the daytime.
Right.
And no overnight parking, I think.
That's correct.
I think it's 11 PM or something to.
Right.
But the signage that we have down there is confusing and inconsistent. And so that was part of what drove us into, let's take a look and make sure that everything we say in the ordinance is clear, and that not only is it clear, but then once we get the new ordinance in force, we'll put up clear signage that's consistent, so anybody looking at it can understand what the situation is, when you're gonna be in violation, and it's not working.
And maybe we could clear up the arrangement that we have with the fishing game.
Yeah.
Or at least,
Sure.
at least have it illustrated to us.
Yes.
at
Right.
some point.
With the
Yeah.
original. So I have a
Fran, you
com-
had a question or
No,
a
no,
comment?
I passed.
Oh,
I was
okay.
gonna say, you know, if anyone objected to the trailers and trucks being parked on the, off the fog line on 109, you know, from the bridge back up to the parking lot, if you put those vehicles with their trailers for the day in that 19-mile big parking lot, not the beach, but the parking lot, you wouldn't be able to get any trucks, vehicles in there at all, permitted vehicles.
Right.
And that's kind of a release to the pressure that these trailers put onto the the parking.
Yeah.
The parking lot should be increased in size at least. Or the banking's made a little more acceptable to pushing the trails back into the woods, so to speak, without, getting hijacked on a rock or something.
I know we have had some conversations in the past about is a lot adequate in size, and maybe we should look at making it larger, so.
Does the abutter, do you think the abutter would be willing to sell land?
Butter is, back 2,000,
Oh, you don't come right to that?
huh?
You don't come right to that?
No. I just go to the brook on the other side, on the other side.
No.
No, town property, quite a ways back in there.
Okay, any other comments? Phil?
Back to the wharf. So presently, I don't have an issue with the fire boat or the fishing game boat. I think it's a good idea to sort that out. But if you look now, the fire boat has the prime #1 position, which rightly so, it wouldn't matter if they had a back position, they need to get to it, easy access. Awkwardly, the fishing game boat is 1.5 spaces back with an awkward space in between, so unless you've got a very experienced boat driver that wants to maneuver their boat in between the fire boat and the fishing game boat, they're taking up probably 3.5 spaces. So if you're gonna allow the fishing game to stay, which I presume you probably would, maybe you could ask them to snug up to the back of the fireboat unless there's some particular reason the fireboat needs 3 lengths of space. The other point is the opposite side of the wharf is very shallow, unusable, filled in. Maybe if we're gonna have all this restriction and we can make it a little more friendly to use and do some dredging and improve the other side of the wharf so that it could be used. Presently, it's kind of marginal if you even want to tie up to the far end, and then the rest of it is off limits if you have any kind of propeller.
That's part of the discussion, it's a small part, but it's part of the discussion we've been having about work on that wharf. And putting together a plan, a warrant article for that. But I think you're right, I mean, I think it would be, in an ideal setting, the police and the fire and the fishing game would be on the right-hand side and plenty of draft for them. And then the public could be on the other side, so.
At least they got the fishing game department boat away from the launch area. It was
Right.
hazardous to get in there with a vehicle without impacting the fishing game department boat.
Yeah, moving out the wharf, I think, has been a positive, but your point's well taken. If we can get them to move it another 10 feet or 15 feet up,
Or
snug
to
it up a
the-
little
Or
bit.
to the other side
Yeah.
that isn't conducive to fix it so it is conducive.
Right.
Yep.
Right. And I don't know who the liaison is with fishing game, is that
We can make contact.
fire
with
or
them.
police?
Yeah, let's go much.
Yep. Okay, any other public input? No? All right.
They've answered my questions.
I declare the public hearing closed. And do we need to do some tweaking then on this before we vote on it, chief?
The only question that's left in my mind is what do you want to do with the parking at the new Mirror Lake boat launch? You said no parking, but I wanted to make sure that's clear, that's what we're gonna do
There's a car there yesterday.
along the road.
No, right
No.
there.
Oh, it's right next to it?
And
Okay.
that, the car that was there with the lake host, pulled right up by the,
Look, they host on duty.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, the Lake Coast, okay.
Yeah, and it was well off the road, so.
All right.
So they're okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of parking we can offer.
Well, that's the other problem, it's sort of
So
small.
Right.
Is there actually parking on Lang Pond Road? Where the
It is,
posted sign?
is,
No.
I don't think it's wide enough. And there's a car park.
Well, up
My
on the
interpretation-
Wolfboro end of Lang Pond Road, there is a turnout there. And it's not a parking lot per se, but I have observed vehicles parked in there from time to time.
I know Wolfboro has a big problem policing that into their road, as far as illegally parked cars.
Oh, you're talking about,
Yeah,
that's,
Lake Pond, yeah.
yeah, that's down by the museum.
yeah, right.
Well, as I read the statutes and the law, you can park along the sides of roads, as long as it isn't like on a corner or someplace where it's obstructing, or so far of an
Obstructing the
intersection.
view or obstructing traffic, right? Yeah.
Obstructing traffic. So I do get calls from the Herseys about that, and it's kind of, well, first off, she's saying they're parking on her land, which I don't know that they are or aren't, but we run into the Brown Road, I said, well, where are the limits of it? Because you run into the Brown Road situation where are the limits of their land versus the right-of-way of the road. And so I didn't want to, I said, unless you have that clearly marked, I'm not gonna wade into that, but you can park along roads, town roads, and typically state roads. It's legal to park along them, so, blocking things unless it's marked otherwise. In a as long as if it's at night, you have to have lights on. Or commercial vehicles, you have to have triangles out. I mean, those are the kinds of restrictions that apply under the law anyways. So it is kind of odd because she'll complain about it, but there's no parking there. Well, there's no, you can't trespass on your property, but there's nothing that says they can't park. It's considered, I looked through the book from the Municipal Association, parking is a biotic use of a right-of-way that's allowed. So now the question becomes, if you can't go there, why are you parking there? But I guess there is some sort of access further up from Hershey's, closer to the, yeah, there is a small public access to the lake there, but
So the beach area right there that has the camera sign and stuff is not town.
that's not
Public
town-owned right
access.
there, I don't believe.
Well,
Steve?
the Mirror Lake Watershed Committee designed that and located where the right-of-way actually is, and it's about halfway up to the cabin. It's very generous,
It's a 50-foot wide
yeah. And they.
right away. It's
We actually
monumental.
designed
Okay.
the road fixed there so that there would be parking on the lakeside, and where there is also a gravel drain built in underneath. But that was a multi-purpose idea there. So that would, in order to preserve the tree cover that's on the other side of the road more than not encroach on the cabin. That's why we put it on the other side. And on Mirror Lake, parking was not designed as in part of that boat launch.
Right.
And I don't think we even looked at, the town ownership is so narrow there. I don't think it was practical to design parking in with it, even though it would be desirable. So if the state right away
was used for parking then?
Well, the state controls who parks, where people don't park on state roads. And that's not prohibited parking along there.
That's
I
right.
guess maybe what we should say, where it says Mirror Lake here, is the existing wording says it is a small area and no parking is allowed. So maybe what we want to say is it is a small area and doesn't include parking or some such thing. In other words, we can't prohibit parking there
On the road.
along where I've seen people parking with a trailer. There's a spot where you can kind of snug one vehicle with a trailer up, just up from the ramp. And if the vehicle isn't too big and the trailer isn't too big, it works. But we can't prohibit parking there.
Well, yeah, I was talking more along the launch, on the actual property. Yeah, we can't create parking along the road.
Right.
They probably should consider parking the trails and vehicles up at spare spots in the fire station. And it's no more
Right.
distance between that and where the launch is at Union Wharf.
No, I agree.
So
Yeah.
if they had some spare area up there for public parking for a trailer and a couple of vehicles, not interfere with access to the
Yeah.
fire station.
Yep, there is room there, but one of the things that folks run afoul of is the neighbor's driveway that's right adjacent to the parking lot.
Well, the neighbor owns a
Half
good
the
portion of
parking
the
lot.
parking lot,
Right,
but they allowed us to use it and.
Like the property line is
do
a catch
whatever.
basin, isn't it?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Catch basin is the property line.
okay. So do we want to reword this on the Mirror Lake thing, or just leave it?
I'm gonna recommend that we're into July already. We need to accept this ordinance to make it functional. And there's an RSA that allows us, if for some reason, the boat ramp at Mirror Lake, we've overlooked something egregious, we can review that and fine tune it at a later time.
Okay.
Just to,
Yep.
Attorney Sager did say if you need to take amendments at the public hearing, you can. So just to say, they don't, I just didn't want you to think you have to take it as it is. You can
Yep.
say you can make
Yep.
amendments if you wish, and then adopt it.
I don't know how much clearer it can be. I mean,
Yes.
we can either say no parking at all allowed, or, and then we're sort of running afoul of what happens on the state road.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
Like I said, I was referring in that particular point to the launch itself, that property, that.
Right.
Whatever we have, that
Right.
50-foot wide, or
No, I don't think it is. I think it's only,
it's
probably
not-
just the launch.
I don't know.
I think it's a rod and a half is all it is, I think.
Yeah.
So rod and a half's, what, 25 feet?
I think so.
20, no, it's not even 25 feet.
Right.
I think it might be a little wider than that.
It might be, but I think if you look at the, it's not,
I know it's not much, that's why, that's what I was talking about.
I fundamentally think that any town ordinance should have a little ambiguity, but we're not doing that job.
But that's what I was referring to by the launch itself, not.
Right. Not along the road.
Not along the road, because
Okay.
that's a state-controlled road, they'd have to
Yep.
deal with that.
Right. All right, so we want to leave it as no parking allowed at the launch.
So is that, yeah, that's clear, yeah.
Okay,
I think you know, that's what some of the people were, before it was delineated clearly, people were parking off to one side and now the people have to go around. I think now that there's a fixed ramp plus the bark mulch, that's why people were like, well, can we park there? And it's like,
yeah, all right.
I guess,
Do we got a motion on the table, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. And that is to, you want to restate your motion?
Accept the docking and parking ordinance as presented today.
Okay. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries.
It's kind of a waste of time, huh?
Thank you, folks. All right. Now, we'll move on to getting ready for the regular meeting. Any public input? Yes.
That's this gentleman's name, what's your name?
Dennis Garvin.
Garden?
Garvin, G-A-U-V-I-N.
G-A-U-B-I-N. Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a question for you. You received a letter from the town of Ossipee regarding possibly establishing a budget committee of the school board, and they want an answer by July 2.
Yeah, that's in our correspondence for discussion today.
Okay, you will be discussing it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't see it on the agenda, so thanks.
No, it's part of correspondence. All right, let's move on to approval of minutes. First is the June 18th Selectmen's meeting.
Keep an eye on it.
Yep. Not gonna stay, Steve?
Thanks, Chip, but I gotta go to work, 'cause
Yeah.
There's no
I gotta pay that federal excise tax.
All right. I have one correction on the June 18th meetings. At the top of the second page, the sentence that says a new ladder will be installed is for Melvin Wharf, not the Union Wharf Road dock. So the new ladder is at Melvin Wharf.
Thank you.
Right. I was gonna do
All right. Any other additions or corrections?
that. I'm all set.
Yeah, fine. I'll move that we accept the minutes as recorded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then we have the June 18th non-public.
I have no issues.
June 7th.
That was a performance review session, so, yep. All right.
I'll make a motion that we accept those minutes.
So, second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Are they currently seated?
They're not sealed, no, no.
Nothing
There's nothing to,
to review.
just reflects that we conducted a performance review session. Okay. Departmental update. Chief Thompson, come on down, sir.
You'll sign that in front of the town clerk. Parking
Yeah.
ordinances.
Yep.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Okay.
Thanks.
Currently, we've done 92 fire calls, 93 EMS calls, 10 service calls, 6 special details for 201. Gas furnace inspections, 8, oil burner inspections, 5, wood and pellet stove inspections, 5, life safety, 13, for a total of 31. The proper paperwork needed to secure the spot for towing manufacturing line out of Breed, Iowa has been completed. Estimated time for the new fire truck is 365 days. The proper paperwork for the lease purchase in Municipal Leasing Credit Corporation out of Oakland Park, Kansas is complete, and towing manufacturing and the lease company are working out the proper paperwork as far as performance bond and information. That's pretty much situated now. Just nailing down a date for when everything is going to be complete with that. All the life safety inspections are complete for the camps: Northwoods Boys Camp, Pleasant Valley Girls Camp, Camp YMCA, Camp Belknap, Camp Sentinel, Camp William Lawrence, and Mira Vista. Right now, we have approximately 30 hours. I'll give the selectmen a breakdown in that of each camp and everything that we have done at a later date. All the camps were found to be in good shape, and they've been working with us every year in the past for inspections anyways, so it's nothing new to them. Any deficiencies that were found, we have given them written information on what to correct, and they have a year to correct that through, for the state laws. Most everything has been corrected already, and we've received information from most of the camps as far as the correction and stuff like that. Things that were different this year, we're measuring for space as far as cots that are in the different buildings as far as their camps. Most of the camps were in compliance. Some of them had to possibly take out one bunk or whatever to be in compliance. But again, per the state, they have a year to take care of that.
So that's kind of like where you got a meeting room, and you say you can have 300 people in it, no
Right.
more, right? Okay,
Correct.
you got a bunkhouse, you can,
You have a certain amount of space, as far as bunk wise, you have 60 square feet as far as per bunk. And if you do a single, it's 40 square feet. So that's where they ran into maybe taking out one single. Because it's better to have a bunk instead of
Yeah,
single.
2 for the price of one, right?
We were also measuring, the assembly area as far as the dining halls and things like that, as far as for a proper amount of people and seating and stuff like that this year. Sandy Island Camp, we have not been out there yet, but also that is a family camp versus a kids camp. As far as,
Right.
it's more of a family type thing versus kids going there and paying to go there. So that is on our list, and we will get that situated here shortly. The 3 Class A fire trucks, they've all been through their spring inspections. That didn't happen until the 6th month. Both areas that we deal with as far as for the maintenance and stuff, were fairly busy. And but we also got them inspected at the same time, because you can get them inspected within 90 days of when the inspection can take place, and it's usually in the 9th month. So we save a little bit of time and money on doing that. They will be gone through later on in the year. We usually go through the trucks twice a year to make sure that all the maintenance is situated. And obviously, they go in as needed for anything. All the SCBA's have been inspected and maintained. All the bottles that go in them have had their 5-year testing and hydro testing. Company came in and went through all of them, and then we refilled all of them, put them back in service. Everything passed with both of that. We have some larger 4,500 PSI bottles that are storage for the Cascade system, which we use to fill those SCBA bottles. Those actually have to be shipped out. They can't test them on site. So they made arrangements, and we're coming in to take care of them. Our compressor system has been serviced, and the Jaws of Life has been serviced at the same time, the 2 sets that we currently have. We've received quotation for putting new polymer on the airboat, which is on the bottom and on the sides. And that's something that I was looking to the future as far as either budget or a warrant article, because the cost for doing something like that is approximately $15,000.
And a new hull would be how much money?
About $100,000 as far as a new boat.
Well, it's a new boat, but you can buy a hull, I'm sure.
No, you would have to replace the boat to have a new hull.
And what are we doing with this polymer?
The polymer is the protective coating on the bottom of the boat that allows you to either slide along the ice or
Right. Is
dirt or anything like that.
Is that kind of in liquid form?
It's a
or-
cladding.
No, it's actually probably a plastic coating that is about
Right.
this thick.
Probably a high molecular weight polyethylene, is that what
Yeah,
it is? Yeah.
have you seen in the back of dump trucks, they
Yeah.
have the polymer that is in there, it's kind of like that.
So it's
So
a-
it comes in cheap
It's a
form.
wear item.
Yes. Yes.
And it's attached with fasteners.
Yes, it's attached with bolts, actually.
Have you checked with other departments that have gone through this process?
Yep. As far as process-wise, it's fairly substantial process because you have to take the engine out, you have to take everything out inside the boat as far as it goes. It's not something that you can just do in your backyard, do in the fire station. Talk to different areas that, as far as fish and game, and either in New Hampshire or in Maine, they actually use an excavator to stretch out the polymer to try to put it in place. If you're not careful, you don't use the same holes, you have more holes in the boat as far as it goes and things like that. It's something that professionally needs to be done.
So how old is this boat?
2005.
So it's 13 years old.
Right. And the boat's gonna last.
Have we done this before?
No.
Okay, so we're expecting it's gonna last for 13 years.
Yeah. And as I said, it hasn't failed. We don't want it to fail. It is cracking on the sides, and you can see where it's starting to wear. We've addressed as far as to keep it from all of a sudden catastrophically failing. It's something that if it does give away, that you're underway, that it could actually drop down and launch you as far as boat-wise. And that's something we don't want to look at. The company said that it is okay for now, but it's something that I want to make you aware of, that it will
So
come into
you're gonna be
as far as it goes.
turning a project in for 2019 to include that.
And it is something that, the boat is scheduled for replacement in I think it was 2025, 2026, somewhere in there, somewhere down the road.
So we'll only have half the life out of this new thing.
Right, and then someone else will have the other.
But it's $1,000 a year in expense. Okay.
So that is that. Otherwise, the boat is in good shape. We had it in for any welding and stuff that needed to be done. That we found cracks in the boat itself, and that has all been taken care of. So it's good for another year with that. Central Station has had its heating systems and AC systems for its major PMs gone through. Everything is in good shape there. Captain Pike and firefighter medic Skip Galvin conducted a stop the bleed training for Camp Sentinel, and some of the town's lifeguards were there also. On 6/28/18, there was approximately 30 people in that class. And we went through bike safety again this year, which was successful. Everyone made it back. The police and fire department worked with the school.
That's always good.
It's always good. Worked with the school officials to get everyone back safely. Over 100 bikes were gone through and checked with some minor adjustments made. There's always a few bikes that can't be fixed as far as issues. They were marked, and loaner bikes were brought in by school officials. I did see information from Doug Smithwood in reference to the solar and his recommendations as far as the fire station itself, possibly down the road having a 5 or 10K array, and that they didn't get the
Did not get the
grant
grant.
as far as that goes,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Okay.
So far, we're in good shape as far as the electrical. seems to be, holding as far as what they said,
Yep.
as far as keeping, the 300.
Yep.
Um,
My understanding is as long as we don't,
We don't spike.
as long as we don't spike. So I think you indicated the spike is when we do the annual testing on
Yeah.
the.
Which we
So-
have,
We fire up the generator.
yeah.
So if we can run that off the generator, we should be good.
Yep, and we do have a major testing coming up that they actually have to separate the piping, the 5-year testing for that in the next couple of months. So we'll try to make sure that is done if possible.
Great.
I noticed, and this, I'm into numbers, normally your EMS calls outstrip your fire calls. And you've been running neck and neck this year. Is it just a weird year, or?
We've always been somewhat that way, besides that we had a spike with a certain individual last year as far as medical wise. But our fire and EMS calls were kind of unlike any other area. But then sometimes they're up as far as it goes. But it all depends on the amount of people that pass away. The amount of
There's a lot of moving
sick
parts,
people
right?
that you have and things like that.
Yep.
So you're keeping track of your collections on your ambulance?
Yes.
Just report on that something.
And do you want that report at a meeting, or do you want that just passed in so that you can review it? And if you have any questions, you can.
Yeah, well, I want to give us a little time, but I don't know how extensive it is. Do you have any idea?
I will be able to tell you a little bit further as soon as that everything is, completely tallied for the different stuff. And then we can go there. We were waiting to see if there was anything else coming in before I actually give you further. And I have not heard back from Stewart's. They've gone through a few different things as far as the main company that was bought out again in reference to 2017's 2016 information that you requested to see if they could do it. They were looking to see if they could maybe enter it into the new computer program like they had given me for 2017, but I haven't seen anything further on that. I'll follow up with Stacy today to see what.
Yeah, good.
Thanks.
Have a good July 4th.
One question before you leave. Karen sent over that information.
In reference to generators?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do we have a hazard mitigation plan?
Yes, we do.
So we might be able to get money for those generators, right? Okay, great.
And I'll follow up.
I was gonna get a
with-
copy from Karen of that.
Yep. No, I do have I have the information that she had sent, so.
Yep.
I'll,
Yep.
The bridge on Sodom Road is being closed.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, the memo you put out, it's, you can get to 104 from Middle Road, 105, you have to come in from 171 New
Right.
Road, right?
Yes.
I thought that was a nice little addition.
Right.
Could you make sure that's in the paper, those numbers are in the paper?
The roads?
Sodom Road Bridge is going out of service, but I think it's
That was in the
important.
paper, yeah.
I think it's important that 104 and lower, you have to come in from one end. 105 and higher, you have to come in from another part of town,
I'll talk to Adam. about it.
okay? It's just a.
I don't know those roads.
Right.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Have a good week, sir.
You too.
Mr. Wingate.
Hi, sir, how you doing?
Good.
Busy's not necessarily bad, is it?
So you got your firewood in for winter?
Kids and grandkids working on that as we speak. So, the Conservation Commission from time to time has been asked to participate in ideas for Cow Island because we own the center of that. 1993, this center area here.
Right.
sometimes in reference to trails, sometimes in reference to the little beach that the town owns, or camping regulations. Recently, one of our members, Kate Nesbitt, who is our specialist on easements, said, why don't we have a no development easement on that? Good point. She's willing to work on it, so I think I introduced the idea to you a couple of weeks ago. Done a little work on it. Maybe we can wrap up all of these issues in one effort. And I think it would be important to involve the right people. So I have a draft letter here, which could be from the Selectmen or it could be from the Conservation Commission. I wrote it from the Conservation Commission because that's who I am.
All right.
Which introduces the idea plus some of the other issues. If we did do a conservation easement, typically the easement document specifies what things you can do and what things you can't do. For example, hiking trails, or another example might be septic systems for residents with small lots, with the idea of good use of town property is to keep the lake clean.
Right.
So it would be things like that you could put in as exception.
And there are some septic fields on that, I think.
Existing, yes.
Right, yeah.
It's been done in the past.
Right.
Or the service utility corridor, you know, how might that be used? So all of that would be specified in the easement document. And we can do what would be called a management plan. Try to look at issues that could come up in the future. And it wouldn't be a rule, it would be like a reference document. So some issue comes up, you can look at the management plan and see what the pros and cons are and make a decision, a fully informed decision based on some work already done.
So it'd be parallel to many other easements we have in town, Dr. Bronek, Great Meadow, just it happens to be on an island, right?
Yep, Great Meadow is the only easement on town property that we have so far. And actually, an objective of the Conservation Commission is to look at all town properties as we have time, and if we think a conservation easement is appropriate, we'll come back to the Selectmen and broach the idea. And then, so this is the effort for Cow Island. So I have there's an aerial map and an idea for a letter. As far as the press goes, don't want to get too specific. That could I would, in my previous job with the Forest Service, we learned a lot about interacting with people, the owners of the land, so to speak, who are the public. And that is to be fully open and give everybody a chance to express their thoughts and ideas before you actually propose something specific. So that's the idea of this letter.
Has there been a wetland survey down there? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge.
I think it's all upland, but, no.
I think there are some small wetlands in there. One of our members, Ray Everett, did a walk around a couple of years ago. and he has some records. There are what we would call some important habitats in there. So even if you did have a development idea, we would be recommending that those habitats be preserved.
Yeah, I was, who knows, I suppose we can all look at this, but I think there's some value there in having uplands. And I guess I'll back up. If we create an easement or conservation easement out of hand right now, I think we may not have capitalized on those uplands and our ability to say, okay, you need to, any developer has to impact wetlands, needs to offset that by acquiring uplands, basically. Can we capitalize on this Cow Island piece and maybe fund the trail system, the maintenance, et cetera, by public source or private sources as opposed
So a betterment easement from the people who are abutters?
No, I'm thinking of what, in terms of, and who knows, I just remember having looked at some transactions that happened south of here where a developer who was putting in a shopping center actually put land in conservation mitigation through, it was not even in that town, it was like 3 to 4 towns north of there. I don't know, I'd have to look at it a little harder, but I was trying to figure out a way to accomplish what Steve wants to do, which I think is a great idea.
It's a great idea.
But not lose maybe an opportunity to fund some conservation efforts with that. So, yeah.
The state regulates wetlands, and currently, if you have a project that affects wetlands, then you have to do some kind of compensation, and we're actually applying for that kind of funding right now with the Great Meadow project. The state is divided into regions, watershed regions, and then the fund is that wherever the money is generated goes into a fund for that particular region. So there's a couple of $1 million in a fund for the region we're in, and we've applied. And this money came from projects like you're talking about,
Right.
where a parking lot or a building or something like that had to fill in an acre or two of wetland. Usually the mitigation is either create some wetland somewhere or pay a fee. And they usually chose the fee because they just don't want to get into more projects.
It's easier to just
Yeah.
pay the money.
Pay the money.
Yeah.
Well, I knew for a while there they weren't allowing you to say, okay, I'll give you a piece of wetlands, because you can't do anything with wetland anyway. So they were looking for upland to protect wetlands. And this may have all changed.
Well, it's just a fireable and actually that's what we're trying to do in the Great Meadow.
Right.
You could say, you can't actually, out there, you wouldn't actually be able to build anything. You wouldn't be able to get a permit to build anything in the Great Meadow. So in a way, it's already protected that way. So the most vulnerable area is the watershed area that immediately surrounds it.
Right.
So our highest objective is that surrounding watershed area, but if we can pick up any of the internal wetlands, we're trying to do that too.
Yeah.
And most ownerships out there, or at least the two that are available to us right now, have both. They both have part of the wetland,
Dry land.
and they have the upland surrounding. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And in a way, having a conservation easement here, it is an upland protection.
Right, I just didn't know if there was some way to capitalize on the fact that it is an uplands protection, and it's on the lake, et cetera. I think I don't see this property ever leaving the hands of the town. It's hard enough to get in the first place.
Yeah.
We're scheduled to come back next week to talk about the old landfill.
Right.
So
Which one?
this is kind of an opportunity to think about this.
Yep.
Think about people we need to talk to.
Yep.
At the end of it, the idea is to create kind of an email list so that people want to stay up with the ideas that are being presented or the things that we're considering. We could keep them informed that way.
Yeah. Do you have a time frame in mind for this?
I think I put something here. We'd use this summer to try to collect information and talk to people who maybe they want to talk face to face or over the phone or something like that, and then start actually working on putting a proposal together in the fall and going into the winter. One of the things we'll have to do is have an easement holder, and so far our easement holder of choice has been Lake Region Conservation Trust.
Right.
And sometimes they like to work on that document a little bit. And the one for Great Meadow, we spent over a year going back and forth on ideas for how to do that document. So I didn't want to get too far ahead of the ball and
Right.
say we'll be done by a certain date.
Right, no, I'm just thinking you're gonna communicate to people with an interest to get some input.
Yeah.
And you want a reasonable period of time for people to come to you and say, well, here's my idea, and let me think about this. You don't want it to be too short, but you don't want it to just be forever. So your thought is through the summer, maybe into the fall,
Yeah.
gather some information and just.
I think the dialogue's still going in the fall, we just keep going
Yeah.
until we think we've got the summer part. We were thinking primarily the more interested people are summer people.
Right.
And,
Well, certainly the folks with island property
yeah.
are more likely to be here in the summertime. So if we can engage them.
Part of the resistance, if I remember, and I had a pretty good memory, is there have been occasions when land trusts have decided that one piece of property is a heck of a lot more valuable to them than another that they're currently holding. And they will divest themselves of one piece of property in order to gain this other. It happened with, I remember, where the Taylor home is. And that's always been a little sticking point. I don't know if Lakes Region's ever in there.
Well, that's where an easement is important.
Right.
The majority of Lakes Region properties don't have easements on them, and they have that flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you're saying with an easement, that flexibility is eliminated?
Right, and they don't own the property. All they do is they're the one that.
They actually own the easement.
Yeah.
They own the easement.
They own the easement,
Right.
and they can sell the easement.
Yeah.
Who would want to buy it?
Right.
Or transfer it, say, to another land trust because they can't fulfill their responsibilities or something. It's actually a legal ownership, just like a road right of way. It's kind of the same kind of thing. You are giving up, either donating or selling, a right, some kind of right to the property.
And having a local land trust, Tuftonboro centric holder of property is not an option, is that? We don't have that currently. I mean, I'd like to keep it in Tuftonboro if we could.
Well, at Lakes Region, we work together on a lot of projects. We hold the easement on Ragged Island.
Right.
Lakes Region owns and when they want to do something out there, like they bury the electricity, disturbing the ground was not, to do that was not a part of the easement document, so we had to go through a little negotiation for that. And that's probably 50% of the language in the easement is, what do you do when something unexpected happens?
Right. Procedure for
I
dealing
mean,
with
the
that.
legalese that's in there.
Right.
So there is a process, and
Provides a process for negotiation.
it generally works when something comes up. Usually the two agencies involved, their purpose is in alignment, so it's easy for them to work out a good solution. So I think probably the strongest thing is a public need comes up.
And I'm not certain easement is the only vehicle we have. We can make it a park. I mean, we'd have to change our budget on Parks and Rec a little bit. I mean, there are a number of different ways we
Yeah,
could
sure,
approach it.
sure.
I mean, I think we need to probably codify something in the form of protection, because it's just sitting there currently. Yeah, I think it's a great discussion to have.
Yep.
Can I ask, if we're done on this subject, can I ask you something on that issue? There's a scheduled meeting for the Mirror Lake Watershed Committee, July 15th. As I understand it, it's not currently a committee, and we have paperwork to appoint people to that. It's my understanding that the Mirror Lake Watershed Committee did yeoman's work, and you were on it with me, you know, Lang Pond Road and the Perch Beach and whatnot. And there was, and they've already morphed one time from Lang Pond Road to the Mirror Lake Watershed. I think there may be some members who think that they are automatically going to morph into the advisory committee for the new watershed grant. I'm asking you a question. Isn't that kind of premature for them to morph? Do you understand what I'm asking you?
Yeah, I haven't.
More committee?
Yeah. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah. I think the only time I've heard that is when I heard it from you.
Yes.
I don't really remember talking about it, but
Well, if he says it enough, it'll be true.
Yeah, okay.
the way that the watershed plan idea goes is right now, we're recruiting a advisory committee. But that's a multi-town thing, because we have portions of Wolfboro and portions of Multiboro as part of the watershed. And that committee is, its function is to advise the contractor who's doing the watershed plan. And the contractor may ask committee members to do some work, like monitor a particular location or take water samples or something like that. So all things that can happen. Once the plan is, and the advisory committee at certain stages in the process, when the contractor gets some stage of the process done, it reports back to the advisory committee, and the advisory committee reviews the work and decides whether it's on track or not.
And that's parallel to what they did on Lang Pond Road.
Yeah.
I remember more than one meeting, Ben and I going to HEB.
Yeah, that was a highly detailed
Yep.
thing. This is a much broader concept about the plan. Because the plan isn't gonna regulate anything, it's not actually gonna do anything, it's a piece of paper.
It's a roadmap.
Yeah, once that's completed, then we need,
In the advisory committee, their role is in helping to influence the roadmap, to ensure that some of the little stuff that we're concerned about is taken into account as the plan is developed, right?
and the
Yeah.
language is right,
Right.
and it's implementable and things like that. So once that document is done, then we'll be forming a watershed committee to try to implement.
Mhm.
And like Multiboro just went through this process, they now have a implementation committee. So anything we come up with, like on their end, will probably drop right into theirs. And I don't know, I'm not sure about the Wolfboro end, but I think at that point, we would have a Tuftonboro committee. And it's probably functions better that way, because there's the interaction, maybe you need to ask town meeting for some money to do a project, applications for grants, and things like that to get specific projects accomplished.
Yep.
It might be an idea to have an ordinance of some kind, a stormwater ordinance or something. You know, those are the kind of things that could come out of that committee, and I think it would be a town committee. That's to happen after the plan is done.
So in your opinion, is there a role currently for the Mirror Lake Watershed Committee now? beyond what has happened in the past. I mean, this was a committee we stood up for a year, and then we extended for another year.
Sounds like a subcommittee.
So, and, you know, it is, yeah, it is, there seems to be some interest in this group in remaining together and working on something.
All I know is, what you know, is that a meeting's been called for next week, and there's an agenda. That's-
So who called the meeting?
Well, Leanne sent the message out. Yeah, that's what I know.
Okay?
I haven't had any other communication. I know there was, over the past year, there's been an occasional, are we gonna have a meeting? But it didn't happen. And I think, maybe this is a wrap up. Because we didn't have meetings before because the only unfinished work was the boat launch. And it was already planned, you know, we had some lined up to do it, so.
Done.
Maybe
that's it.
Yeah. Is there an ongoing issue with lake level in Mirror Lake and the outlet being jammed up with
I haven't heard anything.
stuff? Is anybody monitoring that lake level? I mean,
Yes.
Larry Dill's been doing that. I think Ben still keeps an eye
Yeah. Yeah.
on Lake Front and.
because as I recall, the issue is for that lake to function properly and flow through, it needs to be at the design level or below, right? If you've got a waterfront in Mirror Lake, you like it for the water to be higher, which,
Some people.
yeah, right.
Some people it's not an issue.
Right, but, and so it's nice to have a little higher water level along your waterfront, but that contributes to some of the conditions.
You're at the annual meeting.
I was at the annual meeting and there was an open discussion and there were no adversarial comments or issues. The beaver are cutting down some trees, but it was more aesthetic than it was damming up the outlet. But I've spoken to several people there who, as they're out kayaking, they happen to go by the inlet. And in years past, remember there was a dock that floated down there and someone threw some pallets and whatnot, and the homeowners resolved that. So, they pulled the stuff out and Jim hauled it off. And I don't know this for sure, but my sense is, and I didn't ask, don't ask, don't tell. I think the person responsible was admonished by his neighbors. There were some cement blocks thrown in there and whatever.
Okay, so you're gonna come back next week, right? Okay, great.
And invite all those people at Mirror Lake's watershed committee to join your watershed committee. I mean, you're gonna have to have membership there.
There'll probably be some overflow, no pun intended.
I'll be discussing that, but many of the members attended the kickoff meeting, and there was an opportunity to sign up for the advisory committee at that time. And I know we got some names out of that, but I haven't seen the list.
Yeah, and I think the planning board's gonna end up looking at ordinances, I would think, but the watershed in my mind is all those hills that we live around
Yeah.
that supply the streams that run into the rivers.
It's interesting,
There's gotta be some,
right now, our water quality in the lake is particularly good.
Yes.
And you've noticed it hasn't rained.
Yeah.
And that's a tip about the stormwater issue.
yeah.
It's real.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and as I look at some of the other watershed plans that have been done around the lake, part of what's in them is identification of projects, things that can be done to improve the quality of the stormwater runoff into the lake. This area, you can do such and such, so, which.
I can tell
think
you
is-
that we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah,
Most of the projects that have been done have either been done through a grant, which is one here, one there occasionally, or a cooperative municipality who's fixed a particular drainage situation. A lot of that has happened in Laconia. And whether you've heard about it, but they just had a very severe cyanobacteria outbreak on New York Beach and then down into the channel.
Yep.
And that's our future if we don't do something. But if you spend some time on the lake, the other thing you'll see is there are trees disappearing constantly. Trees are one of our best protectors from phosphorus. And more lawns, larger building, paved driveways, all of those things that are promoting stormwater. I think the corrections are way behind the progress, so to speak.
Well, the watershed plan will be a good step forward.
Yep, you gotta start somewhere.
Right. All right,
Sounds good.
thank you, Steve.
Okay,
You. Happy July 4th.
all right.
Stay off the lake.
All I have to do is look out my window.
I'll
Yeah.
just don't go there.
There you go.
I'll be too busy.
Okay, moving to the signature file. They have two members for appointment to the planning board, Lorraine Hadley and Kate Nesbitt. I'm sorry, and one alternate, Russ Steensma. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move we appoint these folks,
Okay,
with the caveat that we are gonna do a review
Yep.
of the
Absolutely.
sections.
Yep.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Is that, so that's Lorraine Hadley, Kate Nesbitt, Russell
Steensma, Lorraine Hadley, right?
Lauren,
I'll show you the name.
Kate Nesbitt, and then Russell Steensma is all.
Steensma.
And he's for 1 year.
He's the alternate.
And he's for 1 year, the other ones are for 3.
Nesbitt, 1 T, 2 Ts.
I'll just give you a copy.
We could make a file a right to know request. Have one of those
Yep.
for a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
That's good.
Then we have an appointment to Ray Everest as a member of the Conservation Commission. He was an alternate before, and this is to a 2-year term to complete the term that Nancy Bird vacated when she moved out of town.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have certification to the State Department of Revenue Administration regarding the PA-28 inventory of taxable property form for 2019. And this is to certify that we will not be using the PA-28 form, which is consistent with what we've done in the past.
So moved.
I'll second.
Did they all sign it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, I have approval of, actually, I guess this is hiring of the swim coach, aquatics director, and lifeguards. They're compensation, but the prior compensation is nothing, so these are the,
I have a question for Karen. To your knowledge, has the criminal background checks been done?
I don't know, Diane would know that though. I understand, I think one of them came in the other day to get set up with that.
Yeah,
Can I?
I know you're aware of it.
Can I'll go ask? Excuse me?
Good job putting the criminal lifeguards. Jesus, we don't want to.
Someone's gotta watch them.
Yeah, who's gonna watch them?
right?
That's the only one we're talking about.
How many lifeguards did you say?
We have, let's see, 1, 2,
Mr. Chairman,
3.
that information, those requests were sent out approximately 2 weeks ago. Takes a period of time. Editorial comment, I'm a little frustrated that it's now June 2nd and we don't have this paperwork in place, but it's really spouting off. So, I don't know, is it legal for us to sign these conditionally?
Well, I don't know that we need to sign them conditionally. I think we've made that a condition of employment, and if it doesn't transpire that it happens, then we can dismiss it.
Okay, then I move we sign these.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I hate to see kids not be able to swim because of the state is slow.
Yeah, well, they've eliminated, going over to Tamworth and getting, any sort of help.
Exactly.
Fingerprinting and all the rest of it.
Right.
I had to go to Concord in order to volunteer for my grandkids' ski program. And it took, I don't know, I sat there in Concord for an hour and a half waiting to find out that I wasn't a criminal.
I understand why, but
What, was there some question in your mind?
There was when they told me I had to go to Concord.
There you go.
I might not be
well,
coming
at
back.
least it wasn't going to Pleasant Street.
Right.
That doesn't exist, does it?
All right, next we have a yield tax levy. And this is for timber tax in the amount of $2,256.29.
Could I see that for a second?
You may, and this is for PID 30-3-9.
It's the heresy law.
Yes. How can I be, I just won't be delicate. It seems that every year we chase this guy for a couple $1,000s. That's just a fact of life, right?
Well, I mean, we have the opportunity to put tax liens on, and that's happened in the past. I don't think,
Okay. I've
I mean,
spoken.
both parties involved have been here a long time, so I don't think
Yep.
we're gonna chase them away.
Right.
So,
I'll make a motion to sign that.
I'll second.
okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? I mean, regardless of whether it gets paid or not, we, the tax is owed, we got, I'm sorry, we gotta sign the back page too. And, so,
Yeah, and they're not gonna.
we have to go to collect it. And it, if somebody doesn't choose to pay, then the law specifies how you deal with it.
Because they're exercising their hesitancy.
Yep. All right. Next is the report on annual post-closure report to the State Department of Environmental Services. And this is closure monitoring on the closed landfill.
Is that just one signature?
That is just one signature, yeah.
I'll move that the chairman sign.
Is that for
This is for 2017, this is for last year.
2017? It is not for the breakout.
Right. That's correct. That's a separate issue, separate.
And according to that, when was the testing done, et cetera?
It's probably in here someplace, but I can't, all right. So there were 4 inspections done in 2017. February 23rd, May 31st, August 11th, and November 29th.
I have a concern, and I want to handle this as gracefully as possible. Stan Tech speaks DES, DES thinks highly of them. It's like having a doctor or a mechanic, you want someone who's reputable. However, since I've been selectman, we are constantly trying to get the bills paid in the calendar year the tests are done. And Mr. Allwine makes the comment, well, the company's in Canada, it has to go through 6 secretaries. He's going to be here next week. And with the board's permission, I would like to, as non-adversarial as possible, have a conversation with him. Clay Gallagher runs, is a godsend for us. One of the reasons why he has no hair is he's constantly chasing these guys, and that's an editorial comment on my part. So thank you.
Generally, you shouldn't have that.
I think so, all right.
Do you understand, Mr. Chairman, where I'm
Do you want to wait
coming
to
from?
sign it? I made a
No.
motion. Do you want to wait to sign this until you have that discussion?
I will sign it because we need to pay our bills appropriately, so I
Well, this has nothing to do with paying bills. This is a report that's
Submission to the
submitted to the
state.
state,
Yes.
that we're required to submit to the
Yes.
state.
I support, I will sign that, or I support.
All right.
Or just second?
Second. Okay.
All those in favor?
Thank you,
Aye.
thank you, Mr. Parliamentarian.
Right. Opposed? All right. All right. Let's see. All right.
Did I sign both?
You did, you signed it, you signed in both places. All right. Next is a special limited power of attorney with durable clause. And I won't read the whole thing, but this designates the town attorney as our agent for executing the deeds on the tax deed property sales.
Yep.
And I think that makes all the sense in the world.
So moved.
I'll
So,
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
My understanding, it was a successful day.
I thought it was very successful. You were there.
Yeah.
We had 38 registered bidders. The total amount of the high bids was $167,000. All properties sold. And Karen has been working with the successful bidders in the week plus since then to sort of get the information together for the deeds. One of the requirements of the purchase and sale is that they will be closed within 30 days of the 23rd of June. And it looks like things are moving that way. Having said that, I think we're all in agreement that if there's some slight delay beyond that, it isn't the end of the world. It just can't go on forever. So.
Right, and some closings take a little longer.
Yeah.
I think it was informative that there were no mail-in bids. even
There were
though
no
we-
sealed bids, were
We
there?
allowed, we
That's correct.
presented a sealed bid option, so hopefully that puts that to rest.
Well,
It's like you said, include both these options, and this is kind of
Yeah, I guess-
a test run, and you approved, right, Chip?
so at any rate, I think it was successful, and the auctioneers did a great job. And they were happy that the turnout that we had, everything went off well. The bidding was done in 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Took us another half hour to get all the P&S done and that sort of thing, but when we were out of there and people moved on with their day. So that was very good. And I would hope that, I don't know when the last time the town sold any tax deeded property, but some of this stuff we'd held for quite a while. I would hope that the future boards will not be hesitant to, let's get it. You know, we take it because basically we have to, because they're not paying the taxes. Let's hold it as long as we need to and then get rid of it.
It is an opportunity. I mean, you look at the prices that some of those lots brought. I mean, if you walk into a house lot for 50 grand, now you can build a house at a moderate price and really make the whole deal work.
Right.
So,
Now, that money goes into the general fund,
It
correct?
does, absolutely, yeah.
And can it be spent?
Not without authorization from town meeting. No.
It goes into our undesignated
So-
fund.
We
So it
can't, we can't designate that as unexpected.
Found money.
Right, it's not like the FEMA grant that we can spend. This is just, goes into the general fund and is available for us to use to offset taxes.
Yep.
And I anticipate we'll do that. Now, I have here appointment letters for the Mirror Lake Watershed Study Committee. And again, I guess this came from Leanne, is that right?
She actually asked me to reserve the meeting room
Okay,
for them, and I looked and saw that none of them are valid.
All right.
So we
so,
said, yeah, please go ahead and.
so the question is, do we want to extend that committee at this point for another year? And having a committee is fine, but it would be good for it to have a purpose.
Who chairs that committee?
And
Have you talked to them at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I don't see a problem of having a watershed. I think that's a brilliant
Yeah.
idea, but I think we need to coordinate it with Steve's effort on a townwide watershed plan.
Yeah,
And maybe this is the avenue to do it, is to appoint these people. I know Ben's been active
yeah.
on that end of town.
Oh, yeah, you know, he and then Dave before him, you know, they made a difference as far as the Lang Pond Road
Yeah.
Yeah.
issues. And I mean, many times, several times, he and I, you know, went to HEB and.
And we can always, I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint these folks, because we can always disband this thing at
Right.
any time. So-
Right, okay, makes sense. So this is to appoint Ben Ladd, Steve Wingate, Jeff Moody, Larry Gill, Fay Friedrich, John LaPola, and Dusty Davies as members, and Gene Kelly as an alternate member for a one-year term to Mirror Lake Watershed Study Committee.
So
So,
moved.
second? I'll second it.
All right.
I'm not gonna sign at least one of them, so.
Okay.
I think the committee has done a great job.
Okay.
I think they.
Well, it's, we've seconded it, let's discuss
Yeah.
it. What's Wood's resistance?
And the other, has it been seconded?
I second
Yeah,
it, yes.
I wanna think before I speak, so be quiet.
Okay, well, so I guess what I'm hearing is you have a concern with one of the individuals.
Yes.
Is it, well,
And is your concern, how do we do this without violating their,
Let's just leave it that way.
all right?
all right? So all those in favor of, or do we want to do these individually?
Well, is there a time, is there a time constraints, can they meet without these appointments?
They can't make any, they can't.
They
make
can't
any-
meet legally.
Right, well, they can meet, but they
They
can't make
can
any
meet, but-
decisions.
But
Can't do anything.
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, I can have a meeting and I will go to the meeting, but there is no legal issues or bills that need to be paid that I'm aware of that is on the agenda. This is the dilemma. They've worked hard. The town is where they are because of them. But as you heard Steve said, it's premature to just assume this committee is going to morph into,
Well, I don't think it's gonna morph into anything other than what it is, but maybe some of the members will end up joining Steve.
yes.
Right.
And they've had an opportunity to sign up.
But there are other issues coming up. I mean, the Wolfborough's plan is gonna affect Mirror Lake just as much as it affects 19 Mile Brook, or
Right.
19 Mile Bay. So, I mean, they're gonna wanna.
It's also going to affect the watershed plan.
Right, they're gonna wanna be involved in that. It's, I mean, I've already got the,
Well, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here. This group is gonna get together on the 15th of July. If there's, we haven't identified a specific set of things for them to continue to be involved with.
I
This point.
will volunteer to go there and be the liaison, to listen to what they have to
Yeah.
say, and bring back any constructive comments they have.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready to sign because people volunteer to help. But if you wanna review it with them and see what their agenda may be going forward.
And Leanne didn't ask for these reappointments, right?
She didn't, she asked for the meeting to be reserved,
Right.
and then I let her know that no one is valid.
As a matter of fact,
for
a
for
couple of them
July meeting.
never got sworn in from last year.
That's right.
Yeah.
So her and I emailed back and forth, and I said that, I told her that, and I said, should I do
I'm
appointments
trying-
for the selectmen? And she
Well,
said yes.
here's a thought. If we have a good reason for having this committee, and if these people, if all of these individuals, if having the committee continue makes sense, and if all of these individuals are willing to serve again, then I think it makes sense that we reappoint them. But do we know that all these people want to be on that committee for another year? If it extends for another year?
Yeah, maybe
Assume
they
that she would've
should.
told me otherwise.
Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves
Should
here.
have an organizational meeting.
Yep.
And-
Exactly, that's what I was kind of thinking,
Yeah,
public
I think we're
organization.
going-
I'm not aware, according to the minutes or the agenda that I got, that there is any pending legal issues that will put the town in danger or them in danger if they have an opinion on it on July 15th.
Yeah, I don't know if it has to get to that level, but
Right.
I think an organizational meeting is great. Figure out what they think might happen.
Yes.
And then come back and figure out
Yep.
what they want to sign.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so I move that we table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So,
Thank you for listening.
no, I think that's, it's terrific that we have volunteers and willing to work on things, and we've got folks with energy, and let's make sure that we get them engaged in doing something that's, that
It's doing it.
needs doing, because we have stuff that needs doing for sure.
Were you in
Okay.
favor of that, too? Did you vote for it as well?
I did.
Okay, just want to make sure I got it right.
I'll speak up.
Oh, you're fine.
Yep, okay. First item in correspondence is fuel contract for the 2018-2019 year. As part of a group with NRPC, they submitted a request for proposals and got prices back from vendors for fuel oil and for propane. And the low bidder from the LRPC bid for fuel oil and diesel was Pemmy River, who is a new vendor for us, at $2.44.9 per gallon. This is 9/1 through 8/31. And after the bid came in, Karen went and talked with our existing supplier, who had been the previous low bidder and a good supplier to us for many, many years. And the price he came up with for the same period was $2.58, which is, what is that, 13 cents a gallon more.
Well, we need to nail one of them down, because we've got $70 a barrel of oil right now, and that's going up, so.
Yep, no, I think we gotta move today on that, so,
I've had several employees speak to me in the fall. Until our deal expired, they were saving 60 cents a gallon. Like, for example, is it gas, for their houses? Another employee also pointed out that if we didn't re-up with that particular vendor, think of the cost as you have to switch over the ownership of all your tanks.
we're just talking about fuel oil
Right,
right now.
okay.
Okay, and
Am I talking about something else?
yes,
That's
we're talking about
propane. This is
propane.
oil at the moment.
Propane, right, right, fuel oil,
Propane worked out, so.
fuel oil, everybody owns their own tank.
Yes, okay.
So,
What is your
Let's see.
recommendation, Mr. John?
my recommendation is we go with the Pemmy River on this. Carroll County's been a good vendor to us, but we're not talking 2 cents, we're talking 13 cents a gallon.
Is that, and that's for all
And-
town
and
buildings?
That is for all town buildings. And our usage was 6,480 gallons this year, so we're talking, $700 savings
Right.
by changing to Pemmy River
Will they,
as our supplier.
will they pass that on to our employees?
And they have offered a employee price of 10 cents more than the town price, so it's $2.55 instead of $2.45 is available to the employees, but I think they have to sign up right away, right? They can't just let it hang out there.
So that's still,
I would recommend that, yeah, I haven't actually gone into too much detail with them about that, but.
that's still 3 cents lower for the employees.
Yep.
And if you, I might add, of course, the Pemmy River one is on the Lakes Region Planning Commission bid. And of course, that required a certain amount of gallons by all towns. So obviously, if some towns don't sign up, and I just don't know what will change, but this agreement that you have there now is contingent on figuring out that everyone's gonna sign up. And then Tufton Borough individually, I will work with them on what we would need of the, whatever it was, 55 or 65,000 gallons. 'Cause who's-
6,500.
6,500.
Excuse me, with all the towns.
Oh.
Right.
They need
Of
to
maybe
have
65,000 or
65,000.
They need to have an aggregate number.
Thank you, right.
Right.
And so obviously if something changes there, then I'm not sure, but at this point in time, this is what we're given and.
Mhm.
and,
So,
and they,
Is there any reason for not trying it?
yeah, is there a deadline for,
today.
Oh, it's today.
Thank
I
you.
got it extended, actually.
Yeah,
so we'll know by tomorrow?
right.
Okay,
We'll certainly know before next week,
Mhm.
all
so.
right.
Now, on propane, which is the other fuel that we use, and that was on the bid, Pemmy River was the low bidder at $1.49.9, $1.50 a gallon, and this is on a 12-month contract. And our existing supplier, when Karen contacted them, came back with the same price, so.
They matched it, yeah, they
Right.
came down.
So it's about $49.99 for.
We should just stay with who we
So I think we should, yeah, and that's where, because most of the propane tanks belong to the vendors, if you change vendors, they end up selling the tanks back and forth and that sort of thing, so it's a little more messy. There's no economic benefit to the town to changing, and it's also less paperwork involved, so my recommendation is that we stay with Eastern on propane, and then we would go with Pemmy River on fuel oil. And I'm probably missing something. What else?
Oh, I was just gonna add another, just for, on and off-road diesel,
Mhm.
Henry River was less as well, 10 cents, cost plus 12, 10 cents versus cost plus 15 cents.
Right.
So it's a savings there as well.
All right, so I will entertain a motion then to award a business to Pemmy River for heating oil and diesel fuel, and to Eastern propane and oil for propane for the 2018-2019 season.
And what are the dates of that contract
That's 9/1 through 8/31,
of 2019?
right?
And Eastern will pick up right away. Eastern will be at 12 months, June to June.
Okay, I'm sorry, so Eastern is now through the end of June
Yeah.
next year. 12 months starting yesterday. Okay.
So moved. Are you moved, right?
I was entertaining a motion, so.
Okay, so moved.
Okay,
I'll second, but I think we need to modify the oil one to be subject to the Lakes Region group pricing availability.
okay, that's
You know,
right.
I have no problem with that being included in the
Yeah,
motion.
absolutely.
All right.
Okay. All right. So we got
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we do have a contract here with Eastern. We do have to sign today.
One signature?
No, 3 signatures. And one signature with Pemmy River. So we can go ahead and sign the Pemmy River as well, and then the
Right, if they don't meet the price, then they haven't satisfied the value of the bargain.
all right, and this, it looks like, just takes one signature. And you'll pass this information along today?
That's correct.
Okay. So,
A lot of work. Thank you for
a
your
lot of work,
negotiations.
a lot of work, I think a good,
I know Jeff has worked hard.
good exercise he has. And this is stuff that's new to him, an update on the electricity. I think we talked at our last meeting about the purchase power proposals that came in were, didn't provide a savings that was worth executing. Subsequent to that meeting, when I saw him at the regional select board group meeting, I think what he's gonna do is they're gonna look, as we get closer to the expiration of the current contract, which is end of November or end of October or end of November, they'll take another look at it as we get closer at repricing it to see if maybe the pricing has changed by then. But if it's similar, then we'll just revert back to using the co-op as our power supplier. There's not gonna be a savings involved, really, the purchase power situation doesn't,
Can you remind me who the purchase power agreement was with?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I can look at one of the bills that's on there, but it's, I'm-
It was just a separate proposal that came to you.
the purchase power proposals this year, I don't know who they were. And the way it works is they collect proposals and then they put the information out to the members. But
Well,
because
this is LRPC.
it's LRPC.
That's what
Right,
it's on.
but because
Through
there was no benefit,
Yeah.
we didn't even get that information. They just said, at this point, it doesn't make sense to do it. All right. Next item in correspondence is an email relative to telephone transfer up at the transfer station. The cable looks like somebody wants an extra $15 a month, and it looks to me like
Clay's on top.
Clay has that well in hand.
Could I have a copy of that letter, Karen?
Mhm.
I left a note.
Okay.
You can make a copy and then put it back. Okay. Next thing I want to mention is that we did have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor on the Sodom Road Bridge repair. They're going to be starting work at the site this coming Thursday. That will not involve closure until Monday, but the road will be closed Monday, July 9th at the bridge and will remain closed, we project, through the 20th. That's not a firm end to the construction period. Depends upon, weather conditions, if we get in the way of doing the work. Additional work that might take a little longer to do, but it's a anticipated 2-week closure period. If you've been on Sodom Road, you'll notice that as of last week, they got informational sign up with the anticipated closing dates, but there will be a detour posted while the road is closed. So just want everybody to be aware of that. Have a note here. It says, on behalf of All Saints Church, Carolyn Sundquist asked if a banner could be hung on the fence at Davis Field advertising the church's upcoming Circus Smirkus event on August 12th and 13th. So
I have no problem with it.
it's I don't know if we need to, since Davis Field is a Parks and Rec property, do we need to I think, I think having, putting up signs and banners is fine, but do we need to get Parks and Rec involved in?
Or they just never, it's fine, but I don't think we're objecting to the signage, but we don't need to be the people involved in where and how. That should be Parks and Rec.
Or we assign that their responsibility.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
directly.
Yep, yep. So, Karen,
Vote on it? I don't think we need to vote on anything.
I don't know.
yeah, can you get Carolyn connected up with Gina? Relative to that?
Sure.
Okay. Email here relative to a proposed amendment to RSA 231:79 highways to summer cottages. And this is, the purpose of this is to provide towns with flexibility on the dates for road maintenance that are summer maintenance only roads. I think the current statute requires that they be maintained from April through November, and this amendment would allow towns to vary from that somewhat.
Especially with seasonal weather changes.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
think
if
it's
it's,
re-
if it's still.
I think it's reasonable to investigate.
Yeah. So if it's still snowing in April, should we be doing summer maintenance on it?
Right.
Probably not. Okay. No.
Excuse me, I think they just asked for input as far as support and things like that, the town of Washington. Should I respond to them and let them know support this change?
I think, I don't see any reason not to support a change to the
Yeah, I see.
to the RSA that provides
The
flexibility.
dialogue is healthy.
Okay,
Right?
I'll let them know.
You know, let's say, for example, the law says that the town has a window of April 15th to May 15th. Well, that allows Tufton Road to decide when it wants to
So,
open
and
its roads.
the provision of this draft amendment to the RSA would be that by a majority vote of the legislative body, a town may extend the exemption period for all highways to summer cottages within the town. But in no event may the period begin earlier than November 15th or end later than April 30th. So it's just, you're talking about a 30-day, potential 30-day shift. So I think that
Let the people
seems
decide.
reasonable, yep. So we have some correspondence here regarding road salt, a road salt contract that the purchasing is cooperative purchasing managers group obtained, and for those municipalities that participated, it provided them with a substantial savings over the state bid contract. This was with Morton Salt. And I've provided them with information on our salt usage and the type of salt, so they can provide us with a price for the coming season. I know we've used Granite State Minerals, and they've been competitive and good for many years, but it never hurts to look at
Competition's healthy.
Right. All right, Carroll County response to substance abuse disorder. Meeting is the first Tuesday in August. Is that the one that you've,
Yeah.
this one is at the Cook Memorial Library. You, on August 7th, you're gonna be going on that?
I will.
Okay?
I'll just,
Yeah, I attended the last time. It's,
Give them a copy.
yeah,
just grab a copy.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I learned all about drugs. It's always good to know.
Yep. All right. Have a letter from, actually was to you, Lloyd.
Would you read it into the record?
How about, why don't you read it into the record?
Dear Mr. Wood, my name is Jason Walsh. I live at 34 Sawyer Road in Tuftonboro, New Hampshire. I'm asking the town of Tuftonboro to pave the small section of road that is located in Tuftonboro. There are many reasons why this section of road should be paved. These reasons are described below in detail. First of all, the town of Tuftonboro will save money in the long run if Sawyer Road is paved. The cost of maintaining these roads, parentheses, grading, repairing potholes, spraying for dust, and parentheses, on a yearly basis adds up over time. Paving the small section of Sawyer Road would result in less maintenance, resulting in the town saving money in the long run. Also, this section of road has not been adequately maintained in the 3 years that I've lived at my residence. The dust that gets pushed into my yard on a daily basis is very unhealthy for me, my wife, and my 2 very young children. We've kept the windows closed all summer due to the dust. We are the only family that suffers on the road, as the predominantly northwest wind blows the dust into my yard. We've called Jim Bean, the road agent, 2 or 3 times a year. This year I called him and left messages on 4/24 and 5/14, and he neglected to call me back. As you can see in the town map, Sawyer Road creates a horseshoe around my property. Sawyer Road is heavily traveled road as it is a shortcut to Center Ossipee from Water Village, North Wolfboro, etc. It may possibly be the most traveled dirt road in Carroll County. Also, the 3 lots across from my house on Sawyer Road recently were put on the market and have been sold. Houses may be built soon, which would result in increase in traffic from logging trucks, construction vehicles, etc. Maintaining these roads may be more expensive than in the past. In closing, the heavy traffic and dust that is created by Sawyer Road being unpaved is a very big safety risk for my family, especially my 2 young children. I really hope that the town of Tufton Borough would consider paving the road. I realize that this topic has come up in the past, but there are many variables that have changed over the last few years. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. Sincerely, Jason Walsh.
So, any thoughts?
Needs to be paved. But the town legislative body voted no.
Did they?
And that was
4 or 5 years ago.
several years ago, yes.
It was specifically pulled out of the paving?
Yes.
It was a separate article in the warrant. And
So,
it had to do with an ongoing dispute between one of the people up there and the town of Ossipee. And Ossipee was getting ready to pave the road and,
did Ossipee pave there? I don't
yes,
know.
yes,
yeah,
So
all except for that small section that's in Tufton Borough has not been paved.
All the way out to 171? Really? I should drive out there once in a
Yeah.
while.
Every bit of Sawyer Road that is in the town of Ossipee has been paved.
Okay,
The only piece in there is the short section that's in Tufton Borough.
okay.
So,
It's right up here.
yeah.
Barry Ennis argued against it. and
Yep.
All the hands went up,
Yep.
Yeah,
town meeting
But it was a
against it.
specific warrant article.
yes, it was.
As opposed to just our paving.
No, when the warrant article for paving came up, that was a topic of discussion,
No, I
correct?
believe it was a separate
Okay,
article.
maybe it was.
Yes.
It's right where Phineas Graves Road comes out. The
Right.
the intersection was redone a few years ago. And,
Into an island.
yeah.
Right.
I think it's about $11,000 and then $7,000 for a finished. I can get the prices, but
Well, if the whole rest of the road is paved, it actually does save you money.
I'm sure it does.
yes, it does.
Because it's, you
Yep.
know, a nightmare going from paved to
Yep.
unpaved, back to paved again.
Yes, yes.
Really?
And that individual has, complained about the road since he was
Yes.
so adamant in not having it paved. But, so that, I think that is something that we,
Do we need
So
to?
where is the, is he living in the little half cave there, the red house?
No, it's the White House across the horseshoes.
Okay, this way.
so he's on the outside or the inside?
It's Barry's old house.
Oh,
He bought
okay.
it from Barry.
All right.
Oh.
Yeah,
And it's married and had 2 kids.
uh-huh, all right.
Right there.
Do we need Karen to send him a letter that the
So-
selectmen have received his letter?
Yes, I think that would be,
And we'll talk
that would
about it in
be,
budget time.
that would be appropriate.
Yeah, I
So,
think we
and-
need
and-
to just put on a schedule and pay for it.
Yeah.
And make a big deal of it.
Yep.
Well, the legislative body specifically said no.
I'm
That
not
was-
certain they can line item that stuff so much.
Well,
Well,
I mean, if you let it happen.
I did
Here's my understanding. And no means no, but not forever, okay? And it's been a number of years since it was voted down. So that doesn't mean that it can't be embraced going forward.
I'd have no problem bringing it up and asking the town meeting.
It's gonna be more expensive to do it now than with then if the.
Yeah,
cost
sure,
of the
absolutely,
roads,
yeah.
and they could
Yeah.
just road through it.
That was
Right.
the argument, that was, it's kind of a game of chicken. They
Yeah.
wanted Ospey to do it.
It also was a very volatile town meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the Ospey selectmen said that the Ospey Fire Department is usually there first. And there were objections to that claim.
Okay. So they set
There was
fire,
a little,
they set fire to a house just to see who got there first.
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
All right, so if it's appropriate for me to sign the letter, I'll be happy to. If you want to put something together, Karen, we'll send it over my signature.
It acknowledges we talked
Yeah.
about it.
No.
It's a matter of record.
Okay, moving on. It's scheduled for Old Home Days for the 24th, 25th, and 26th of August. We had a chicken dinner and a concert on Friday night, a whole plethora of things, including the race on Saturday.
Your antique autos?
Yeah, antique autos, market day, book and breakfast, hardwood boat race, which has been
Well, that's
very popular. Traveling planetarium, something for the kids, and finish off with a lasagna dinner on Saturday, and then a nature walk and the town picnic on Sunday. So it's been a great event the last couple of years, and I hope we'll continue to see more participation,
Yep.
more people coming
a
out.
nice event.
Yep. All right, next we have a letter from the town of Ossipee Board of Selectmen. I guess I'll read the whole thing here. There's been a fair amount of response generated by discussions on the impact the town of Ossipee will see in the local education tax as a result of the 1.5 million budget increase, of which portion, Ossepee's portion is $900,000 or $1.33 per thousand. This year alone, the local education tax will double the amount we as selectmen have worked diligently over the past 4 years to decrease in the town portion of our tax rate. Upon request, we have investigated the methodology in calculating Ossepee's share of the school district budget. This likely needs to be updated as the process for our town has not changed in 55 years. You're asking each town in the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, would you be in favor of establishing an actual budget committee with a representative from each town within the school district to provide financial oversight and review the proposed budget? And they kindly request a response in writing no later than July 2nd. Now, when we received the letter, I asked Karen to do a couple of things. First was to check with the municipal association. What it appears that they're wanting to do is for the towns to establish a budget committee with some authority over the school district. So, which says to me, okay, don't know how that works if the law allows that. And I don't have a copy of the response from the municipal association in front of me, but the long and short of it is that they're not aware of any provision in the RSA for towns where there's a cooperative school district or multi-town school district to create some sort of a separate budget committee to deal with the school district's budget. How the school district budgets or budgetary process works can be dictated by a provision in the RSA as it relates to school districts, or a specific agreement that was approved by the legislature at the time the school district was established, or some sort of special creation document that all the towns signed on to. Don't know what the situation is with our school district, but it just seems to me that what they're asking for here is something that is outside of our authority to do.
Well, even
Now,
if you could create one of those things, which I don't believe can without the school board being involved, we'd still have to run it by the town.
Right.
We couldn't do that in August. It has to be, you know, an
Right.
article on the warrant that we want to join into some sort
Right.
of budget committee process. And I think we've got information from the treasurer of the school board.
Well,
And I talked to him, he said
Sure.
he's gonna create a meeting.
right, and that was the next piece. I also asked Karen about having Jack come in and sit with us today. He's our Tufton Borough's elected representative of the school board. He also happens to be chairman of the school board right now. So he responded back, and I'll read this. He says, "As much as I would love to discuss this at the Board of Selectmen meeting, I'm going to have to decline. We are getting requests from each town in the district for information, and the school board finance committee will be looking at setting a time when we can have a committee meeting that will be open to the public and invite all of the boards of selectmen, as well as any concerned citizens, to discuss the school district budget process, as well as existing cooperative funding formula." And then some additional stuff beyond that. So what I get from that is that the district is moving toward having a bigger participation meeting to discuss this. It isn't clear to me from OSFI's letter if what they're suggesting is that the funding formula should change. That's been the funding formula for 55 years. Or if the size of the school budget should change, or maybe both.
Or has there been legislation? I mean, part of it is the, I don't know, what Representative Coleman or one of the Free State agents that are trying to create some sort of discourse on how schools are funded. And has something actually happened?
There was a piece of legislation that went nowhere, thankfully, last year, to dictate the funding mechanism for all cooperative school districts, irrespective of what existing agreements were. In our district, funding is based on two things. One is the total valuation of property in the town, and the other one is the number of students, school-age students in that town, currently in that town. And I don't remember the exact percentage, you may be, but it's like 2/3 and 1/3 or something like that. So the effect of that is towns that have a higher total property valuation, like Wolfboro and Tuftonboro, pay more per student in the district than towns that have a lower total property valuation. So, you know, we, by virtue of the fact that we've got a larger property,
We pay 17% of the budget.
Subsidize the less prosperous towns. Any change to the funding formula, I mean, if we went to just a straight per capita, then the Effinghams, the Ospies, the New Durhams, they're gonna pay more than they are currently. If we take the students out and just make it based on the tax base, then we'd become more of a donor town than we are today. So, I would, well, I'm gonna recommend that what we do is we send them a letter that says, thanks for your concern, and we understand the school district is putting together, will be putting together a session with their budget committee and representatives of the towns, and that's an appropriate time to wade into the subject.
Actions going forward. Actions going forward.
Right.
I don't think we're fully informed yet.
Well, so, and again, they're concerned about the increase in the school district budget. I don't know what each piece of that is, and as is often the case, it's great to look at the whole thing and say, you know, we're spending too much money. The salient question always becomes, where do you take money out? You don't like the total, and we see this with town budget as well.
Yeah.
You don't like it, or you don't like the spending, so what do you want to cut? Well, you gotta cut something, okay? You're gonna take this out? Well, no, I don't wanna take that out. Take this out? No, I think you need to be spending more over there. So, the whole process is choices, and it's great to look at the total and say it's too much, but some of those you have more opportunity in the short term to cut than others.
I have a couple thoughts, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm pretty tight with the money, and I don't want my taxpayers to fund things that are unnecessary. The first thing is that the school district, in its budgets, is overwhelmingly supported by the 7 towns. I go to the meetings, and there's more teachers there than there are citizens from all the towns collectively. A couple of things. Yes, I'd be glad to have any discussion or any place we can save money, fine. But there's 4 thoughts that come to mind. First of all, you really, Mr. Politician in the next town, you really want to do something. Why don't you get the frauds in the legislature to go back to the Augenblick formula, the Claremont decision that was very fair, that made sense. There was 4 parts to it that equalized and balanced everything, but the frauds in the legislature didn't fund it properly, and it was a no-brainer. And we've been paying how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars as a donor town. So if you want to do something that helps Tuftonboro, fine. A couple of perfect examples. When the new schools were redone in those buildings that are state-of-the-art and are going to be good for 50 years, the school district was the last one to get 50% grant. Newmarket just did something similar and paid full boat. Well, excuse me, the school board of 5-6 years ago, I don't care if you're anti-school or not, showed financial intelligence. Another thing, Tuftonboro pays 17 cents on the dollar, and I forget what it is for the county, but the frauds in the legislature last year passed on $19 million in retirement costs. It's tough enough we have to pay for our fire and police that are getting jocked, but we now have to pay 17 cents on the dollar for all the teachers. You know, where were the frauds in the legislature helping Tuftonboro there? This school district, led by the current chairman, was the first agency in the state to go to the bond bank and say, hey, the rates are coming down, can you help us? And guess what? The bond bank readjusted the rates downward. They're saving the school district starting this year $90,000. That works out to $14,700 that they're saving the town of Tuftonboro. Another thing is enrollment is down because more kids are homeschooled and go and whatnot. To cover that demographic downshift, the school district for $1.25 million get paid by Middleton to be the administrative leadership for the entire program. Buses, transportation, hiring teachers. I think we have a hell of a budget committee. They're called our elected school board members. Thank you. I support you of sending a letter saying, you know, we're interested and we care about bottom dollar. Keep us posted. Thank you.
Any other thoughts?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'll let Lloyd have the
Yep,
floor.
there we go.
Thank you again.
All right. So we have a letter here from Vegetation Control Services, working on behalf of the electric co-op. They will be doing herbicide treatments along.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in
I looked at that
location,
map.
power lines rights away into, huh?
I looked at the map, I tried to figure out the numbers, and I don't see that that's very informative at all.
Yeah.
So, and I know that they've had some issues recently about tree removal on the power line. And certainly hope they are informing the landowners of this new chemical warfare.
Yeah,
They're doing Agent Orange.
well, this, I believe, is the same basic program they do every year,
Yeah.
year in, year out, so, but,
You have to read Greek.
I don't even know if you knew Greek it would help, because you can't,
yeah.
they cite a number and then on the map, there's no number in it, so I don't see
Yeah.
this very informative.
So,
I have seen them in operation,
well,
and
the,
they seem to be OSHA approved,
yeah,
Oh, I'm sure it's all
legit.
legit. I don't think we can- But they need to do a little more public relations, because they did have some tree issues.
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Note from Lloyd here about painting the buildings. Had a conversation with David Wentworth about several scheduled painting projects. Attached written estimate for the highway department. He said that he has looked at the Sodom Road Bridge. He suggests that 4 of the
Actually, that should be County Road Bridge, would you change that?
Oh, the county road bridge, okay.
I apologize.
And suggests that 4 of the damaged timbers be replaced. Asked him to submit his suggestion in writing with his written estimate. Shared with him we appreciated his work, like to keep work in town. So his estimate for painting the buildings at the highway garage is $7,450, and I don't remember what we had budgeted for that.
I don't get that.
And I don't think that I don't think the line item is specifically broken out in that. Back to the,
Maintenance.
yeah.
I don't even know if it was in government buildings.
My recollection is that we did put money in, was in the buildings line for that.
I had a heart talk with the guy. I explained to him that I don't, as a selectman, I don't have any power. I'm talking to myself. First of all, I asked if the 4 buildings he break down.
Yeah.
That was number 1, and he didn't do it. Number 2 is any other cost. There's going to be repairs, there's doors. And I gave him the example of when a couple of years ago I was on the board. My board voted new doors to go on. Well, hey, wait a minute, what about the electrical power? Oh, we'll find the money somewhere. You know, Jim's budget is in disarray. He's overspent on 3 lines now. The other thing is, the trees need to be cut around the buildings. Well, who's gonna pay for that? So, on the other hand, he has done excellent work. They got done, came under budget and did a great job on the Quonset hut and fixed the leaks. So, I have a dilemma here. You know, we need to take care of our buildings and be proactive with it. At times, gentlemen, I feel like a dentist, and I told him that.
Not sucker. But I think there's some other repairs that are happening that Jim said he was seeing before we paint anyways.
I know when Dave did the transfer station, it came out great. If there was a board that needed to be replaced or nailed back in, or something has rotted, you know, that work was done. So, I mean, he does good work. I mean, there's 2 monuments to that. Maybe we need to have a conversation with Jim when he comes in.
Right, and he got us like the money too.
Yep. Okay. NRA has some information on a program with loose books in Gaylords. Christie, when she was in at our last meeting, had said that there's no place that company that used to service these bins and take the books is out of business or something, just nothing being serviced. NRA does have a program where loose books, hard or soft cover books in Gaylords can go to it's an outfit apparently someplace in Massachusetts, but there are some restrictions on it. Got to be in triple wall Gaylord boxes with floors, have to be delivered to their location. So there's obviously some costs associated with that. And
I had a conversation with Clay.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Christie, and there may be a way without it impacting too seriously on Clay's budget, that in the future they would consider something. It means the library stepping up and being involved, but how you pack these Gaylords, and on the face of it, Clay is of the opinion it's similar to the mall, you know, where you turn things in. It's feel good and why don't you do it and all that, but you know, when his guys start spending more than 4 hours a week, they're not bailing and doing their job. And if there's anyone, if there are two people who could work together and squeeze a few bucks out of books, it's Clay and Christie. So it's a work in progress.
it's good. Good. There was an open house last Tuesday at the new Hope House on Laner Street in Wolfboro, and I attended, and it was well attended. I would say there were easily a couple hundred people there. Nice kickoff ceremony, and I particularly appreciated the walkthrough tour that they did.
What do they do?
I'm sorry?
And is this a drug we have?
No. This is transitional housing for families, and it's the design of their program is, I want to say it's like a 60-day in and out. You bring them in, you get people on their feet, and in addition to private living quarters and some shared space for activities and cooking and that sort of thing. The center is staffed on a 24-hour-a-day basis with somebody, so that there's always somebody there to interact with these people that when the crises come up. I think it's I was impressed with the setup, and again, this is a model that they've used in several other places they have down in the southern part of the state. So hopefully that'll be a good resource for our communities in terms of helping folks to get back on their feet and move forward. Correspondence here relative to the passing of Ann Hunt, and the funeral service was yesterday at All Saints. I can tell you it was extremely well attended. It was a beautiful long service, but it was very, very nice. And the family had asked that in lieu of flowers, donations in her memory be made to the Nick or the Friends of Abenaki, two places where she loves seeing her grandchildren play. So I'm going to suggest that we make a donation to the Nick in her memory.
In Carolyn's case, we made it $100. I think it's the least we can do for families that have given a lot. And officially, I think I speak for the board, our condolences to the entire family. I'll make that a motion.
Okay, yep,
I'll second it. It just reinforces my earlier statement this year that
yep,
sometimes it's not good enough for just people to say that.
no, absolutely.
Town should say that.
Yep,
Yes, you were very eloquent at times.
Yeah.
You said that.
all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We have here an update from Clay with a before and after shot of the Quonset hut. They did do a nice job and they were, good.
Under budget too.
Yep, yep,
And Clay will talk about it.
Yeah.
Clay will talk about it, but it was quite a chemical process. Karen, could I have a color copy of that paper?
yep,
Thank you.
yep. And we have here an update from the Parks and Rec. Let's see.
Concerts are happening this
Yep.
week.
So we're going to include 6 concerts starting this Thursday through the 9th of August at 19 Mile Beach. Also a copy of the program for the Old Home Days. And a couple of action items in here, it looks like. Talking about the playground at Davis Field. And they asked that it be mowed when the field is mowed. There's a small grassy area behind the playground that should be mowed and trimmed as well. And trimming branches overhanging the playground and the bridge to the field. Clean up in that area. I think Corey does some mowing over
I believe he
there.
does. Got Karen sent.
Karen, yeah, can you pass that along to Corey
Sure.
to include mowing and trimming around the playground and the work he does for us there?
Yeah.
Next item, there was discussion at our last meeting about paying the guards for their full shift, even if there is a rainout. As of now, they are paid for 2 hours of on-call time. And should it stop raining, they report to the beach and finish their shift. If it continues to rain, they're only paid for 2 hours for that day.
The 2, including being on call?
She says on-call time, and I interpret that as meaning call-in time. In other words, if you come to work and you don't have, and there's no work, then you get paid for 2 hours, regardless.
Call in, not on call.
Right.
On
right,
call, we should pay them,
Yes.
Right.
because they gotta sit around doing.
Right.
nothing while-
Exactly.
But
What
this
we
is,
do with the
this
police
is,
department.
right, right. If you come into work and you can't work because it's raining, then you get paid 2 hours even though you're not doing any work at all. And what, maybe you're more familiar with this out of Parks and Rec than I am, but
Yeah, and it's a dilemma faced by a lot of these sort of operations. There's not a feeling that people should get paid for not working.
right,
So I think the best alternative might be to have the lifeguard and the head of the waterfront establish some sort of additional shifts or whatever to try and make it work for both the public and for the lifeguards.
so the real issue for the lifeguards, I'm guessing, is not that they want to get paid for working, but if they're rained out on a day they're scheduled to work, then they don't, there's no opportunity for them to make that
Make it
up.
up, right.
Okay, so does Parks and Rec have a recommendation or suggestion on?
No, and if they did, I would have brought that.
Yeah.
But it is being worked on.
Okay, all right,
Currently, it's status quo, but I think it's now on the table, so we need to figure it out.
yep.
Are
Yep.
you meeting with them this month? Let me toss this out. I have no problem giving him my proxy to negotiate, a settlement.
Well, I don't think we're gonna have any work stoppages.
No.
Right.
But I think we need to come up with some sort of agreement that doesn't exceed the budget that we currently have. But we didn't plug in any numbers for rain days.
Mhm.
You know, we
Sure.
budgeted for every day that we were open and paying somebody.
Right.
So
I'm,
it isn't gonna cost us.
I'm flexible, and we do this in the town already with the police department.
Right.
Well,
And I realize there's two different situations there, but philosophically, I don't have a problem with the idea.
I think it's important that we find something that works for the guards that are working for us.
Because we need to attract those people year
That's right.
year after
Yes.
year.
That's right.
In order, and yeah, they have expectations of needing to
Yeah.
make a little money to go to school or whatever.
Yes. I support a reasonable
Yep.
compromise.
Okay.
Sounds good. And I don't think we need a motion on that.
No.
No,
Yeah.
we can work it out.
Yep. All right. Next, I have a note that says Irene Evester declined acceptance of the Boston Post cane and requested it be given to the second oldest Tufton Road resident
She's in
instead.
denial, isn't she?
I guess, so,
Or maybe it's the Boston part of it. I have that feeling once in a while.
Yeah.
When it has anything to do with Boston, I don't want it.
yeah,
It's a
right.
newspaper.
Boston's a nice place to visit, but that's,
I
leave
don't
it there,
even
yeah,
visit there anymore.
yeah.
Okay, it's a work
All
in
right,
progress.
so we're
Do
looking
you know the
for,
second oldest?
no.
Okay.
It's not you, it's not me.
Right,
Never will.
right, so the brain trust is working on that, yeah.
You'll give it to the
And the
second
last item in
oldest.
correspondence, Karen asked me to highlight the fact that we've moved our August 6th meeting to July 30th. We brought it forward 1 week, so we won't be. And you did check with Chip and Lloyd on that?
Yeah.
Finally.
It's, okay.
No, I'm just making decisions on my own.
Well,
You
all
have
right,
a choice.
all right.
I don't know why I should check.
All right, so we got a whole bunch of other correspondence in here, none of which I really even think we need to.
Was there something from Marcia Piper about buying the Hersey camp?
Oh, yeah, yes, there is, but it doesn't require action, I don't think.
It brought up a suggestion.
Okay, well,
I don't,
yeah, so Marcia Piper suggested the town look into buying the Hersey cottages for sale on Lake Pond Road, right near the Mirror Lake Beach for Parks and Rec building.
I'm not interested in the town owning cottages or whatnot, but I am interested in the town being deeded the turnaround back up toward on Lane Pond Road that gets carved out and is all muddy, and there's a rain garden there that I guess we're kind of responsible for cleaning out. And my suggestion is I have permission to contact the lawyer, who is Rick Sager, that represents the Herseys, about is there a way at minimum cost for the town to legally get that little turnaround area? I just toss it out for discussion. You know what I'm talking about?
I do,
Yep.
I do, and I seem to remember that that's there because it was a landing, was established in logging some years ago, so.
And then the snow plows from Wolfboro need to turn around there, and some rocks got moved, and
Yeah, and it's, it seems to me what's there works, so,
but there's no maintenance to it.
okay.
And they, every 2 years have a backhoe put the gravel back in where the snow plows shifted out, so that you have good drainage and stuff like that. I just ask you to think about it.
Yeah. So, when you talk about obtaining it, then I'm guessing at a price, anything's available. I just question if that's, if it belongs to the town, it then becomes a town, not only do we, whatever it takes to get it, but it then becomes something that we have to maintain.
Yep.
Yeah, and if we go the route of this summer cottage road, and continue that with Lang Pond,
Mhm.
I mean,
Well,
what's the need of that from our perspective, because we're not plowing that road?
we plow down beyond that, we plow,
Up to the top of the hill.
yeah. In other words, that end of Lang Pond Road, the Wolf Road, we plow up past whoever it is, his driveway.
Yep.
Right.
Second driveway, yeah.
Okay.
Where the
So,
signs are.
I guess.
Talk with whoever you'd like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bring something back.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to be
Yeah.
on terra firma.
All right, I don't see anything else unless one of you guys does in here. All right, Selectmen's update. Chip? You got anything?
Good.
All right. Lloyd?
A couple of things, Ann Hunt, and I was going to mention the donation you already have. You and I were at Lakes Region Planning for the banquet, and Nancy Piper of the Conservation Commission was honored with, did her jaw drop? She was totally surprised. It was great to see. Nancy, former teacher, probably was one of the 3 people responsible for our arsenic in the well program, and behind the scenes has just been a contributing member. Next, while I was there, I met George Bald. His paths and I have crossed. He was the guest speaker. My paths have crossed with him in the past when he was mayor in Somersworth at age 27, and then in Dread, and he was the guy who helped with the Pease Air Base when it closed and whatnot. These are my thoughts, gentlemen, and I asked him if I could have coffee with him sometime. I said, we have 3 businesses in town that the buildings are for sale. And he has a history of economic development, and I was just wanted permission to, as a selectman, pick his brain. Is there an agency that could help us? You know, what would he have for suggestions? I would like to see those 3 businesses get back into, no, we're probably talking 50 employees totally between the 3 of them, and whatnot. I didn't want to go have coffee with them in the role of selectman without you guys saying, yep, go ahead, so.
I think anytime you can take the opportunity to engage folks and discuss issues in town, that's great. It's not like you're going to be making any
No deals.
any representations on behalf of the town, or any of us would. So
Under Parks and Recreation, I noticed that in our checks, there was a bill for installing docks. Who pays that bill? That was the question that was asked of us.
well, the docks. Now this was the swim ropes. The docks.
Yeah, swim ropes.
Yeah, the docks. That was, I think we paid that a while ago.
Yes.
That was out of the Parks and Rec budget.
Parks and Rec paid last year, I don't know why they didn't pay this year.
Well, I don't know. Jim's guys did it, he submitted a bill, and what I was told is that Gina wants it to come out of the road budget, but I don't see that that's a road budget issue.
I think it has in years past. It's one of those town functions that Jim has sort of picked up on. I don't know, I
Well,
haven't
it's
spoken to
fine,
Jim.
it's fine that he does it, but not, any of this stuff
Docks
is.
and bridges, I think is where the docks came out. The swim lines
Yep.
came out of the Parks and Rec.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense to me that it would come out of the road budget. So, we're not talking huge money, but it's associated with a recreational program.
And do they have some type of account account where funds rolled over every year.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that is, I don't want to use the word slush fund, because it's not designed that way.
The money that comes into that fund can be used for a variety of purposes, but it seems to me as part of the regular Parks and Rec's budget process, things like putting up the swim floats and putting the lines up ought to all be included as part of that.
Yeah, like mowing,
Mowing
Davis Field,
yeah.
all that sort of thing. I mean, it's part of the business to be on Parks and Rec.
Well, that was a question that was
You're right. It
on
was.
top of the bill
Yeah.
pile,
Yeah.
and that's why I brought it up.
Thank you.
I asked about lifeguards, and that's answered. Karen, could you send a note to the chief and ask him what his plans are for police services for the scheduled concerts? We have one coming up.
I know that Gina's
Gina
been
wrote something about that in her
in
update.
contact with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And regarding Parks and Rec, just to let you know, there's only, I think, one new hire. Are you concerned about the criminal records check? Everyone else is a return, so it was just Isaiah. So the other one
Okay.
should have already been done.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
The other,
Yeah, what she said relative to the concerts is that she's been in contact with Chief Shigori. He's aware of when the concerts are. Did not have an issue last summer, nor do we expect any this year. So I guess what I'm reading there is she doesn't anticipate need for a police detail at the concerts.
that's not my recollection of last year, but I don't want to delve into it.
Yeah, they didn't have police, constant police presence there last year.
Okay, well, it's been followed up on, and that's their role. Chain link fence. Spoke to the state, there's no money. I suppose if we wanted to file a claim, they could give us the paperwork. This is the chain link fence that was damaged from moving snow. I went and spoke to the Public Works Director in Ossipee, because they had a similar issue. It was actually another department that put the bids out and they fixed the chain link fence, and there was a local contractor who did it. It's 190 feet long, it's 3 feet high, and the posts are every 10 feet. So it's my understanding that chain link fence comes in 4 and 5 foot widths. It would cost extra to go down to 3 feet. I asked the state of New Hampshire, and you heard me ask Jim, does it make sense to go with a higher one in case they want to put snow fence up or whatever? I just recommend, and I'd help craft it, is that we put this project out to bid.
Yep, sounds good.
And I'll help craft something with
Yep.
Karen.
And, you know, if 4 foot is a standard and we got 3, why wouldn't we put it out as a 4 foot?
Exactly.
Yeah, just the caveat being that you have to replace all of the pole posts.
Yes,
And
yes.
Not just the
That,
chain link.
my thought is that the bid, when someone calls in and wants the particulars, could you give us 2 prices? 3 foot and 4 foot, for example. Now, someone might say, well, 5 feet's the cheapest way to go, and whatever. So I suppose a couple of the 3 foot posts could be reused again, but, and the other thing is I want to word it with your permission. I'm not saying that we need to have diamond studded chain link fence, but let's not go with the cheapest stuff that's going to rust in 2 years either. So, let me craft that for you.
All right.
I'll get back to you.
Yep, and then the answer is we put a claim in with the state for reimbursement, which they may or may not,
What I,
Because
yes,
of-
there is paperwork that we can fill out. I don't know if there's insurance, that we could file an insurance claim.
There's probably something.
yeah.
But there's a $1,000 deductible, and there's no police report, and it's I got from NHMA the legislative policy process asking what we thought about different things, and I went through here, and their final policy recommendations are for a conference September 14th, so feel free to read these good things here. I made a couple of comments about retirement. That's for whomever. Procurement policy. While I was teaching a class in Effingham, they have a 5-page Town of Effingham procurement ordinance. And I'll make sure you get a copy of it. How's that? Compensation. I spoke to you. Here, there's health savings accounts similar to, well, I'll give you a copy of that because I know that you work on it. It's where we could, our employees could save money. Okay, all set.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. All right, any other business?
Can you tell me what happened to all the pictures in the Boston Post cane cabinet? And do we save them, put them in a scrapbook? It's empty, and I know you're just talking about it, so I was just curious. Yes, please.
The family asked for the portrait of their grandmother back, and checked with the selectmen, and it was their picture that they provided.
Okay, so all the ones in the past have also been given back to the families then?
No, the only one I gave back was the one of the lady.
Okay, because we used to have a whole bunch of them in the cabinet at one time.
I have not touched those.
Okay, just checking, thank you.
Yep.
Who's on the agenda for next week, Karen? Department heads?
Library, building, highway, and, Jack, ours of that, excuse me. Transfer station.
What about road agent?
Yeah, highway, yeah.
Okay. I noticed that there's 2 more accounts that are now negative. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other business? Or any other public input? No? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you're not going